Gill, and I'm interviewing Chris Frederick today. I work for West Central London Mind as Suicide Prevention Coordinator. Today we have Chris Frederick, who is a survivor twice over of suicide, and we're engaging in a big conversation regarding suicide and prevention tips and his journey.
As a suicide attempt survivor and now public speaker, writer, advocate primarily for black mental health, black suicide prevention in particular, and also loneliness. I am a survivor, and that's how I introduce myself these days, as opposed to a mental health advocate or something more, inspirational like that. I'm first and foremost a survivor, twice over. My first experience of suicide was back in Singapore, where I used to live in 2018 in August. So I remember the day vividly. I was coming to the end of what was a 20-year career. They always say that if you can't face those things, right, they'll catch up with you eventually. And they did. And the thing is, it started to snowball. So by the time I decided to end my life in August of 2018, it taken me a long time to come to that decision. I was well planned and very thoughtful about the whole exercise. But I remember the night that I attempted, and what happened the next morning was that my friends went into full rescue mode. And they asked me a question. They said, "Did you really mean to die? Or was it just a call for help?" It's a difficult question to answer. And it's been a long road since then. And thank God I haven't tried since, but those memories, they're always there.
Can you tell me what are your thoughts on black mental health in terms of more opportunities for better outcomes?
And you have to bear in mind that I've only been in this space for about 2.5 years, but I've rapidly learned that as a sector, it needs some reinvention in order to create new opportunities and fresh opportunities. That from a systems perspective, there needs to be a shake-up. Every patient's right to expect exceptional care, regardless of ethnicity. When I started to engage with this black therapist over 10 weeks, it was completely transformative, because she instantly related to me, understood relevant background culturally, and we started to map all of the issues that I was facing, and we built a strategy to address them. Yeah? That's been my only real experience of great quality therapy. And I share that story with you, as I do with many others, because that should be the norm.
Tell us about your project that you've developed and you're working on at the moment.
Project Soul Stride, my goodness, it's become something I had no idea it was going to take off the way it did. Do with this lived experience. So what do you mean, lived experience? I've never heard of the term before. Here's what I need to do. I need to develop a 3-month project to get me from summer to Christmas. Something that's going to force my arse out of bed at least 3 days a week. Something that would force me to speak to people, because I wasn't, and use my networking skills to bring people to my screen.
We come today after Black History Month event. I really appreciate that. Can you tell me more about your tips on prevention?
See, this is a very challenging question to answer, because what works for me may not work for others. I still live with suicidal thoughts. It is a sad reality, but I do. I think it comes from the fact that I've been there before, and I've literally looked into the precipice. I don't know if they'll ever disappear. And I've realised that the therapy doesn't help me to extinguish them. It just helps me to manage them. So the first thing is that for those of us who are experiencing any kind of mental health distress or mental distress, is you have to be brave enough to ask for help. No matter what that does in terms of denting your ego or making you seem or sound or feel inadequate in any way, particularly for black men, and particularly for younger black men, you must be willing to ask for help. Journaling has been a massive help for me over the years. I usually journal at night time, and if I'm not writing it in my journal, I'm usually doing a voice recording. Yeah, I just think about the things that give me a reason to keep living, is finding something to be joyous about. I use humour. So my advice to anyone is, respect where you are now, but first extend a hand, don't be afraid to ask for help. And then find something, no matter how small, that's just going to fill your heart and put a smile back on your face.